Be prepared, because what's opening tomorrow isn't just a portal, it's an exposure. And if you don't protect your energy now, you may find yourself absorbing what was never yours. As the sun aligns with Neptune on May 22nd, your intuition will sharpen, your vision will expand, your heart will soften. But your boundaries, they'll start to dissolve if you're not careful. This kind of transit doesn't break you, it melts you. And in that melting, everything becomes fluid. Thoughts, emotions, even your sense of self. You start to feel other people's pain as if it were your own. You start to confuse their voice for your inner guidance. You start to say yes to things your soul never agreed to. And the most dangerous part? It doesn't feel like an invasion. It feels like compassion. But compassion without boundaries is not love. It's self-abandonment wrapped in light. This is why the chosen must be vigilant now. Because this portal will gift you insights, downloads, divine visions, yes. But only if you remain rooted in your energy. Otherwise, you become a mirror for everyone else's projections. In just a moment, I'll show you the exact signs that your field is being breached and how to reclaim your energetic space before this beautiful transit becomes a silent drain. There's a softness entering the field, not loud, not forceful, but undeniable. A strange feeling that your emotions are closer to the surface, that your intuition is louder, but your boundaries feel thinner. And if you've been feeling that, it's not a coincidence. It's Sun's sextile Neptune. And it's not just sensitivity, it's spiritual exposure. Neptune is the dissolver. It doesn't arrive with noise. It arrives with blur. Lines fade, roles dissolve. The separation between you and the world begins to melt. And when the sun, your identity, your clarity, your will, harmonizes with that Neptunian current, the result is luminous, but also dangerous. Because in this kind of energy, you can no longer clearly tell what's yours and what's been projected onto you. You don't just feel more, you feel everyone. You think you're being called to be open, but what's actually happening is that your field is wide open, and without protection, everything starts to enter. Thoughts, memories, guilt, expectations. You pick up sadness that isn't yours. You start carrying desires that weren't in your heart yesterday. You replay someone else's worry in your own mind and believe it came from your own intuition. And it's subtle. It doesn't arrive like an attack. It arrives as compassion, as empathy, as maybe I should help, as maybe I'm being too distant, as maybe I owe them this space, this time, this part of me. But none of that is real if it costs you your alignment. Because this transit, as spiritual as it is, doesn't just unlock divinity. It also unlocks emotional leakage. It makes you receptive to everyone's field. And unless you filter, unless you anchor, unless you remember who you are before stepping into conversation or connection, you'll become undefined. You'll say yes to things your soul said no 2 hours earlier. You'll drift into timelines that weren't meant for you. You'll confuse resonance with rescue. And the most dangerous part is, it will feel good at first. That's the illusion of Neptune. It doesn't deceive with lies. It deceives with sensation. It wraps overextension in warmth. It paints over-collapse with a romantic hue. It convinces you that blending with someone else's energy is holy, even if it costs you your own clarity. But what if this time you didn't dissolve? What if you felt the invitation to open, and instead of giving yourself away, you guarded the gate? What if you let the insight in, but filtered the emotion? What if you let the message land, but kept your field sealed? What if you gave compassion without sacrificing your core? Because here's the truth. This alignment isn't asking you to break. It's asking you to soften without surrendering your structure. You are meant to receive during this portal, but you are not meant to absorb. You are meant to witness visions, but you are not meant to lose your voice. You are meant to hold sacred space, but not at the cost of your own alignment. This isn't just a beautiful, dreamy moment in the sky. It's a test of discernment, to see if you can remain clear while everything else dissolves around you. And right now, if you've been feeling flooded, foggy, or strangely emotional, you're not overwhelmed. You're wide open. And it's time to seal your field before something enters that was never meant to stay. Why Neptune makes you absorb what's not yours. Neptune is soft, but don't confuse soft with safe. Because sometimes the most dangerous energy is the one that whispers, not the one that shouts. And this week, as the sun aligns with Neptune, your soul isn't just being touched, it's being tested. See, Neptune doesn't crash through your boundaries, it melts them. It doesn't invade, it seduces. It dissolves the edges of your aura until everything starts to feel like it belongs to you. Every emotion, every whisper, every energetic residue in the room. And you start to believe that everything you're sensing is yours to process. But it isn't. That sadness that came out of nowhere, that guilt you can't explain, that longing that feels ancient but doesn't point to anyone real. It might not be your story. It might be something you picked up without noticing, because your field was too open for too long. And when Neptune is activated like this, the absorption isn't always dramatic. It happens in micro moments. You hear a tone shift in someone's voice, and suddenly you're spiraling. You pass someone in a crowd and carry their grief for hours. You think of someone you haven't spoken to in years, and your mood shifts, not because they contacted you, but because their energy did. You've become a receiver, an unfiltered antenna. And when that happens without grounding, you stop being yourself. You become a reflection of the world's unspoken weight. That's the shadow side of spiritual openness. It makes you feel like you're being empathic, but in reality, you're being infiltrated. And it gets harder to see the line. Because Neptune, ruler of dreams and illusions, makes emotional merging feel mystical. It makes overextension feel like love. It makes your own fatigue feel like a calling to do more, give more, heal more. But here's what no one tells you. Empathy without boundaries becomes energetic erosion. You don't just burn out, you blur out. Your desires fade, your voice gets quiet, your clarity shatters, not because it's gone, but because it's tangled in everyone else's pain. So how do you stop the absorption? You name what isn't yours. You stop owning every wave that touches your spirit. You stop labeling every sensation as your responsibility. Because the truth is, you're not here to carry everyone's energy. You're here to transmute, but only when it's aligned. You're here to witness, but not to host every fragmented vibration that floats past your heart. This portal, this Sun-Neptune softness, isn't asking you to collapse. It's asking you to hold your shape while the fog surrounds you. And that means becoming selective about what you engage, about what you process, about what you allow to anchor inside your field. So if you're suddenly more tired after talking to certain people, if you're emotionally heavy after consuming content that doesn't feed your soul, if you're second-guessing your choices even though they were clear just yesterday, ask yourself, is this mine? Or did I pick it up because I forgot to guard my energy? You don't need to shut down, but you do need to seal your field, because this isn't just an intuitive upgrade. It's a test to see if you can hold the light without leaking yourself into everything around you. Not all boundaries are spoken, not all walls are physical. And during a transit like Sun's sextile Neptune, the most important boundaries aren't the ones you set with words. They're the ones your energy holds in silence. Right now, your field is porous. And if you don't decide what enters, the world will decide for you. Not out of malice, but out of momentum. Because the world doesn't slow down just because you're sensitive. It continues projecting, reaching, grabbing. And if your frequency is open without guidance, it turns into a sponge. You don't just feel. You become the thing you're touching. And here's where most get lost. They think boundaries are about saying no out loud. But in truth, the deepest boundaries are vibrational. They're encoded in your presence. They're felt before you speak. They're created in how you breathe, how you respond, how you manage what you don't respond to at all. And in this Neptunian field, where everything wants to merge, you must become the one who chooses. What comes close? What stays outside? What gets felt but not absorbed? Because not everything that reaches you was meant to be carried. Your boundaries are not walls to keep others out. They are filters to preserve the clarity of who you are becoming. And here's the thing. You don't owe anyone an explanation for the limits your energy sets. If you feel like pulling back, you don't have to justify it. If someone's presence leaves you tired, you don't have to make it logical. If your system says, "Not now," honor it, even if the request seems harmless. Because your field knows before your mind understands. And if you override that knowing out of politeness, guilt, or habit, you end up leaking light that was meant to stay inside you. So how do you set boundaries no one sees? You become clear within yourself. You recognize when your emotions shift unnaturally after interactions. You pay attention to the subtle heaviness that lingers after certain connections. You notice the sudden doubts, the unexpected fog, the impulses that don't feel organic. Those are clues, and when they appear, your job isn't to analyze them. Your job is to respond energetically. Pull back, ground, seal, disconnect, bow, even if only for a moment, and re-establish the line between what is you and what has only landed on you. This is spiritual hygiene. This is vibrational integrity. And it is essential in this moment, because the light coming in through this portal is real, but so is the fog, and both will reach for you. Only one of them belongs inside. So ask yourself now, what am I letting in just because I forgot I had a choice? What boundary would my higher self set if she were leading this moment? What clarity could land if I stopped letting everyone else's static flood my field? The answers won't shout. They'll whisper, and you'll only hear them when the noise has been filtered, not by avoidance, but by energetic precision. There's a fatigue that doesn't come from lack of sleep, a fog that doesn't come from stress, and a heaviness that doesn't have a name. If you've been feeling any of that lately, this isn't burnout, it's leakage. During the Sun sextile Neptune portal, your auric field becomes unusually receptive, not broken, not weak, just wide open. And in that openness, anything unresolved within you or around you begins to move. You may not notice it at first. You'll just feel a little off. You'll forget what you were doing. You'll feel emotions you can't explain. And then the confusion sets in. Not loud, not painful, just fog. Thoughts lose direction. Focus disappears mid-sentence. Tasks take twice the time. And the worst part? You start to blame yourself. You say you're being lazy. You think you're scattered. You wonder if you're regressing. But what if you're not? What if your system is simply processing too much of what doesn't belong to you? Because psychic fog isn't a flaw, it's a symptom. It's what happens when your energetic container becomes saturated. And when it's saturated, energy starts to leak. Slowly, subtly, silently. That's when you begin to notice the drains. You leave conversations more tired than when you entered. You think of a person and instantly feel your mood dip. You walk into a space and feel your body tense without reason. You try to start something creative, but nothing flows. These are not failures. These are signs. They're showing you where your energy is not being held properly. And unless you notice them in time, they grow. They become emotional spirals, mental exhaustion, physical depletion that no amount of sleep can fix. So how do you close the leaks? First, you slow down. You stop pushing through the fog. You stop pretending you're okay when your system is clearly asking for a pause. Because resistance only deepens the distortion. Then, you observe. What drains you without giving anything back? Who pulls from your field without anchoring to your heart? What thoughts replay in your mind, but never offer resolution? These aren't just annoyances, they are cords. And right now, during this portal, cords that used to be manageable may suddenly feel unbearable because your frequency is rising and they are not. The energetic mismatch is being revealed, not to shame you, but to free you. You don't have to make it dramatic. You don't have to cut ties with fire and thunder. But you do have to choose. Choose to stop holding energy that drains your clarity. Choose to stop giving access to what leaves you dimmed. Choose to close the doors that you've been too kind to shut, but too tired to keep open. And if you're not sure where the leak is, ask your body. She knows. She will tighten when something isn't right. She will tremble when you abandon your truth. She will dull your energy when you give it to what doesn't feed you. This is the language of spiritual self-respect. And this week, with the veil thin, with the sun illuminating your emotional body, this language is louder than ever. So if you've been feeling like you're unraveling, maybe it's not that you're falling apart. Maybe it's just that your soul is finally rejecting what never belonged to your frequency. Let it. How to receive without losing your center. Receiving sounds simple, but for the energetically sensitive, for the chosen, receiving is a high-level skill, especially when the current is this strong, especially when Neptune is involved. Because Neptune doesn't whisper gently. It sends waves of inspiration, of vision, of emotion that feels prophetic, timeless, ancient. And when the sun meets that wave, it doesn't just light it up, it amplifies it through you. You become a receiver, a vessel, a bridge between dimensions. But here's the paradox. The same openness that lets you receive divine insight is the same openness that makes you vulnerable to distortion. And that's where most people lose themselves. They think being open means being passive. They think being intuitive means never filtering. They confuse surrender with collapse. But true receptivity doesn't mean absorbing everything. It means knowing how to anchor the insight without drowning in the sensation. It means feeling the wave, but staying on the shore, letting it touch you, inform you, awaken you, but not carry you away. Because your center is not something to give up. It's the compass by which everything is meant to land. So how do you receive in this moment without losing yourself? You create a container, not a cage, not a shield, a conscious space where what comes in is felt, honored, and then filtered through your soul's truth. If a message arrives and makes you feel afraid, pause. If a connection floods you but leaves you empty, question it. If a sudden emotional vision pulls you too hard, ground. Because not everything that's spiritual is sacred. Not everything that moves you is meant for you. Not everything that feels big is aligned. Discernment is the gatekeeper. And now, more than ever, your center must stay sovereign. It's okay to feel deeply. It's okay to cry, to channel, to receive visions. But always return. Return to the breath. Return to the body. Return to the place within you that doesn't shift when emotions rise. Because this is your anchor. And it's what allows you to walk through intensity without becoming intensity. If you're receiving too much right now, if your dreams are overwhelming, if your heart is too open and people's energy is sticking to you, you don't need to shut down. You need to reclaim the center point. You need to ask, what's the message here? And what's just static? What's mine to carry? And what's simply passing through? And most of all, is this taking me deeper into myself or further from it? Because Neptune's beauty is real. The visions are real. But you are the filter. And this transit, this soft, mystical, wide open moment, isn't just about receiving the divine. It's about proving you can hold it without giving yourself away in the process. Some portals arrive with force. They crack things open. They push you into change. They demand release, motion, transformation. But not this one. The Sun-Neptune sextile is different. It doesn't arrive with thunder. It arrives like mist, quiet, soft, barely perceptible, until you realize you're no longer thinking clearly, no longer moving from your core. That's the paradox of this moment. It feels gentle, but its impact runs deep. It feels dreamy, but it asks for discipline. It feels spiritual, but only if you're awake enough to know when you're slipping into illusion. Because this portal is not for the passive. It's not for the ones who chase light without protecting their foundation. It's not for the ones who equate openness with overexposure. It's for the ones who can feel deeply, but still choose what they allow in. Who can sense everything, but still remember what belongs to them and what doesn't. This is a gift, but only if it's guarded. If you try to merge with everything, you'll lose your direction. If you believe every voice you hear in this window, you'll abandon your own. If you let the beauty of this energy blind you to the necessity of boundaries, you'll wake up wondering where your clarity went. Because this portal, like all sacred frequencies, has two sides. It can initiate divine insight, or it can flood your system with signals that sound holy but carry no alignment. And the difference is how you filter it. This week, you are the gatekeeper. You are the priestess at the threshold of your own temple, and only you decide what enters. Not by force, not by resistance, but by presence. Your awareness is the guardian. Your breath is the seal. Your center is the altar. So take this energy and hold it with reverence. Let it move you, but not sweep you away. Let it soften you, but not shatter your shape. Let it open your heart, but not leak your soul. Because spiritual depth is not how much you feel. It's how clearly you know when to feel and when to step back. And this portal, this soft golden moment, is your opportunity to practice a new kind of power, the power of spiritual sovereignty, the power of not absorbing what you can simply observe, the power of compassion with containment, of openness with structure, of vision with discernment. And if you can hold that, if you can walk that line, you won't just survive this portal, you'll rise from it, clearer, lighter, more sovereign than ever. Because the deepest downloads don't land in chaos. They land in stillness. And this portal, this sacred Sun-Neptune bridge, is whispering something just for you. But you'll only hear it if your field is quiet enough to receive and strong enough to keep it sacred.